Alright, so hopefully this is the only second cut. Hopefully it's the only second cut. Alright, so comic reviews, and I would have uploaded this on Friday, but I think that was too long of a week. Unless I had something uploaded already this week, I didn't want to wait until Friday to upload this video. Now, why Friday? Well, that's when we're returning the books to the library that I'm reviewing now. I actually don't think any of these I'm reviewing are from my PC, even though, actually, no, they are. There are some. But let's just get right into it. Oh, and that's the whole, sorry, forgot what I was trying to get at. Whenever I do a second cut, like, it's always when I get interrupted. I always, like, I'm a little bit, like, my brain has to completely focus back in on the video, so it takes a little bit. That's why I like to sometimes do a longer intro, so like gives my brain the time to kick back in and lock in into this, and not whatever I got interrupted with. But so it's the books, and then so the books that I will be finishing but returning to the library and not reviewing is like what, 2 of them, maybe 3, if that. Those which I kind of have to finish one of them, right? No, actually, I finished all the ones that were ILL, so I could renew them. But anyways, there are some that I mean, first of all, I have to try to return some of these as they're like past due. I think thankfully they don't have any fines on my account, and it's don't do fines in general. And because I've been a patron for so long, they know I'm good for returning them at worst a week after they're due. It's not like me waiting on that one book that has been checked out. It's been due at the lending library since May 23rd. There's a book I'm waiting on, and you'll see what it is when it comes in. It's one of those exceptions books, if you know what I'm talking about. You probably know what I'm getting at, but it's one of those books that I do technically own, but I do own it. I just wanted the library. I think the library has it, and I wanted to be the flip side, which is kind of, you know, if it's a sought-after book, and I'm like the second of 3 people to want it, yeah, it kind of is. I shouldn't just read my copy, I'm sure. I know, but I like doing it that way. Not for every book, but anyways. And moving forward, I'll just do like next time I read Sex Criminals, I do want to read the hardcovers, and the library does have the hardcovers. I have the compendium, so at least there's different formats that justifies my doing that. But I think after this one, I'm not going to do that anymore. Yeah, right. That's a lie. Even I knew that was a lie. But anyways, let's get right into the comic reviews. So the 2 or however many else that I'll be finishing that are library books, that will be a post review. So I'll have the covers shown, like I do on Instagram. I'll review it just like I do on Instagram. Like it'll be text only review. But without further, which actually I was thinking that the other day, those expire if you make too many of them. And also, I think they just expire in general. And no, I don't know why they do that. Or they still do that. I just remember I was trying to find... oh, that's what it was. It was comment on a post that I could no longer see what the post was. I could just see the comment on it, so I didn't have the context. And I wanted to click for context, they wouldn't let me see the post. And no, I don't know why YouTube doesn't allow for keeping all the posts on there. You keep all the videos on there, why can't you keep all the posts on there? But anyways, without further ado, let's get into comic reviews. The first one being a did not finish out of 10. Usually, I don't give the out of 10 reviews until I finish talking about the book, but this is a did not finish out of 10. This was awful. This, I understand it's for a younger audience technically than is the regular ongoing Wonder Woman series, because this is the DC ink imprint, right? That's a big steaming pile of hell no, because this collects previously published material. This indeed, so I said I wonder, because there's always Jordie Bellaire, Young Diana. Wasn't that the backup stories from when Becky Cloonan's run on Wonder Woman? And I had said to myself, it can't be the case. That was the super voice crack. That can't be the case. That was, they just make this a regular size trade paperback, or include it in the Becky Cloonan run, the trade paperbacks. I don't know why they don't, but I'm kind of glad they didn't, because I would have hated Becky Cloonan's run a little bit more. I actually liked it, Becky Cloonan's run on Wonder Woman, but I probably would have stopped reading it because of the backup stories. These are awful, just awful. They talk down to their audience. If they were trying to go for an all ages audience, fine. But even then, like, I have read all ages books that are a little bit more mature than this. Like, it's just not completely pandering. It's just, and this is young adult. This is not kids. A kid could read this just fine. There's no reason why a kid could not read this, and it's made for younger audience, a young adult audience, because it has some language. And I read like 5 pages of this before I threw it out the window, but I don't think they were. Maybe there's a hell in a dam, and they censor a lot for DC and Marvel books that are just for their mainstream audiences, anyways. So no real biggie here. I'm gonna flip through it, but there's not really a whole lot of violence either. It's just boring too. Like, just one of the most tedious books I've ever read in a long time. I gave this book 15 pages, I think, at most, and I felt no need to continue. And I don't think I will be. Some books I did not finish out of 10. I will say later on that I did end up finishing it, and usually it doesn't end up being any better. But this was not a good book at all, and I just guess I did not finish out of 10. Now, it's not completely awful, it's just boring and, again, pandering. Because the artwork, too, like, it screams kiddie book. And I don't know why they did that on the back of Becky Cloonan's run. That was for the regular mainstream DC Comics audience that reads the ongoing Batman, ongoing Wonder Woman. It's not like it was Spidey's super stories. It's honestly what it felt like I was reading. Like I felt like I was reading the Spidey super stories, which that was made for younger audience. Even younger audience. This was still in the Comics Code Authority days. It was made for an even younger audience than the official Spider-Man ongoing series. That's what this felt like. The Keeper, a very fast and pretty fun read. A little bit, I wish they had answered a few more questions, but then again, do I want exposition dumps? No. I think this is one of the most tightly paced comics that I have read, and I like that. One of the more, not one of the most, one of the more tightly paced comics I've read. And I like that. I like when a comic does not need to be, it knows what kind of pacing it wants to have, and it's consistent throughout, and doesn't stray away from its consistent pacing. Because, and not that, like, I read a whole lot of books that do that, but, like, this, like, it never was any slower or faster paced than it was, you know what I mean? It didn't get any faster, it didn't get any slower as it moved along. It just kept that tight pacing. And of course, like, towards the end, it gets a little bit faster, a little more action-packed, a little bit. But this one, I knew nothing going in, and I was pleasantly surprised. But also, it's very much a 7 out of 10, and nothing more than that. Hell, maybe even a 6.5 out of 10. It's good, could have been better, but I am still satisfied, nevertheless. Will I read this again someday? Probably. But not anytime soon. I'm not going to exactly be scrambling to reread that. It was definitely worth a purchase. It's $24.99 for the hardcover. I think it's actually $14.99 on Amazon. I would just suggest, actually, I think it was even cheaper, if I'm not mistaken. I think the Kindle edition was $14.99. The hardcover was $10.99. I could be wrong, though. But definitely worth checking out. If your library has, definitely, like, 100%, but purchasing it, yeah, that $14.99 or $10.99 could probably go towards something else. But if you have money to spare, or if it's like a buy 2 get 1 free sale, you're a comic shop and this is the only one that you are interested in, and you got everything else, or just have no interest in anything else, you see this book and you're like, hey, I can afford this, but to buy 2 get 1 free, I would say, voice cracked again, I would say get that one. Alright, I'm over explaining. I think whatever makes your voice crack was conspiring against me. So they're like, okay, shut up. They get the point. You don't need to over explain. Alright, Batman Arkham Killer Croc. The stories in here are great, the mapping is awful. You would think that Batman Arkham Killer Croc would give you the first appearance of Killer Croc. It does not. And that would be forgivable if one of these story arcs concluded. It literally is. See Croc next, Killer Croc and Batman next issue, the conclusion of this arc, and they don't include it in this trade paperback. Get rid of the awful Tim Seeley story that was in here and replace it with the last issue of that arc. And I doubt, completely doubt, it was one of those things where, oh, they never finished that arc, and there was a whole bunch of behind the scenes bullshit, and they never got to finish that arc. I doubt it. Maybe that is the case. It is possible, but I press X to doubt. I hate to resurrect dead memes, but that's exactly what it was. Sometimes there is a point to the memes, even if they are kind of dead, in my opinion. And that one isn't as dead, but it's overused, in my opinion, if anything. But in this one, again, the Tim Seeley issue isn't awful. It's just another Tim Seeley book I don't like. I have the worst streak with Tim Seeley comics. Revival is the only consistently good series I've read by him. Everything else has just been like, yeah, maybe there's a good... His Batman Eternal stuff was pretty good, too. But this issue in here was just kind of... It's okay. It wasn't awful. It was just okay. It's actually what the cover of this book is. It's the 23.1 Batman or Detective Comics, I think. It may have been just been Batman. No, it can't be, because I would have... Maybe it is. Hang on. Hang on. Maybe it is. I don't know. That's not helpful. Batman and Robin. I was completely wrong. It was Batman and Robin 23.4. But yeah, this one was very above decent. Actually, was it 23.4 or 20.1? I know they did like a little DC 20.4. I know in the New 52 they did they did it before they actually did the Year of the Villain. They did like a month of the villain or whatever, and it was like a bunch of villain stories, like one shots, and that was one of them. But yeah, all the stories in here are very good. Very good. They're good to above average. Nothing groundbreaking. My favorite story in here was the Joker's Asylum issue. I think that was like the best example of how a one shot can work for comics. You can tell a whole story beginning, middle, and end in a 23-page, 232-page story. And that was a great example of how that can be done right. So kudos to them. And this one, $19.99, which isn't bad for a thicker trade like this. But yeah, they should have added in the first appearance and the ending to that arc that was never completed. And yeah, I know I could just read it myself, like just get it off the Kindle, but I didn't think to do that actually. I was trying to get this finished too, because I've had this for a while now, and there was no reason for me to have taken as long to finish that as I did. Dial H for Hero. I need to put this to the side because this is a book that's in my PC. This whole entire series is just really damn good. I reread this story constantly, and I never get tired of it. It is well worth the price of admission. They need to make an oversized hardcover of this series and collect all 12 issues in one hardcover, because then Omar will probably read it. I think he has, near my condition. But those of you who are hardcover waiters, you're missing out. This is a great example of why you shouldn't be a hardcover waiter. Trade waiter, I understand. I'm a trade waiter. But to be a oversized hardcover waiter for this book is a fool's errand, in my opinion. And yes, you are completely missing out. This is really damn good, really damn captivating. And it's one of those books that you can just read this as your first Dial H for Hero comic. They have had several series of Dial H for Hero, but you can read this one as your first and you won't be at all lost. Sometimes the humor can be a bit cringe. I can see someone like your boy Zach not liking this book because the humor is sort of cringe here and there, but it's not Ryan North bad, and it's not consistent like his humor is, where it's like just trying everything, just hitting you with the constant awful jokes. It's maybe one per issue at that. And some of the jokes do land, and I don't remember laughing at any of the jokes, even like a little chuckle or whatever, but it's still like, it's cringe to decent, the jokes are. But overall, I would give this, actually I haven't done the out of 10 reviews for any of these. Actually, no, I just didn't do it for Killer Croc. Killer Croc was a 7 out of 10, and this is an 8.5 out of 10. Before Watchmen, Comedian, and Rorschach. I still really love this specific volume. I've not finished all the Before Watchmen's yet, but this one I remember being the most consistently good. And the best example of you can make more Watchmen comics. Now, do I think they need to make Doomsday Clock? Even I do like Doomsday Clock. I actually have liked all the Watchmen spin-offs. But I still don't think that they need to be made at the end of the day when I think of the fact that Alan Moore, the creator of Watchmen, did not want any spin-offs to Watchmen, and DC Comics completely ignored him and were just way too money hungry. I think that is a terrible practice. However, it's DC Comics, not Image Comics. So we're gonna get sequels to books that the creators said, no, don't make sequels to my work. DC Comics says in return, it's not your work, it's our work. So, honestly, at that point, it's your SOL. Completely SOL. And that's why again, another little advertisement for Image Comics and why I love them so much, because they were the trendsetters for creator-owned work. And nowadays, like, you don't even have to go to Image. If Image denies you, you have several other options. The world is your oyster at that point. Still, at that point. So before Watchmen, again, I still like this. I think it's captivating. I think this is the most solid Watchmen spin-off, like consistently solid, like I said before. Rorschach by Tom King is just Tom King's best work, and in general, it's still a pretty good book. It's a pretty good story. And it's the best one because in the sense of it doesn't ruin Watchmen because of what it says about Rorschach. I don't want to go too much away, but it doesn't. You'll see what I mean when you read it. I do recommend you read that one too. And then Doomsday Clock was, yeah, I can see if people don't like it. It's been a while since I've read it also. To give credit where it's deserved. I don't know how to say it like that. But before Watchmen, Comedian and Rorschach gets a 9 out of 10. You're tired and you give Watchmen. Yeah, I know. No, I give Watchmen a 9.5. Mr. Miracle by Tom King. And speaking of Tom King, I just don't get it. His dialogue is really cringe. Like, everything like that people don't like about Tom King is featured in this book. The Eisner Award winning Mr. Miracle still has a lot of what people don't like about Tom King's work. Now, it's not as bad as something as like Heroes in Crisis. I think this is probably one of the better Tom King books because it doesn't really do a character assassination. There is one technical character assassination, but even that one can be explained away by someone who's well-versed in Mr. Miracle and well-versed in comics and knows actually what's going on here. Because it is pretty confusing too, but that's a great advertisement for rereading this book. Now, I think this is one of the better Tom King books at the end of the day. I would still give this a 7 out of 10 and still say that I do like rereading this one from time to time. However, it's not gonna. I don't think it would win over anybody like me who isn't the biggest fan of Tom King. Yeah, but 7 out of 10. I mean, a lot of enemies here giving Mr. Miracle 7 out of 10, but before Watchmen, a 9 out of 10. I would say more an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a bit too high. 8.5 out of 10 for before Watchmen. Comedian and Rorschach. The Ultimates improved drastically on a reread. It went from a 7 out of 10 to an 8.5 out of 10. This is really damn good. If you have not read this series yet, the Omnibus honestly is well worth the price of admission. Mark Millar at his best. At his strongest. At his strength. I'm trying to say, like, it's not like the best Mark Millar book I've ever read by him, but it's up there. It's definitely top 10 material. And it'd be more like number 4. Kill a Man. This is by Steve Orlando and Philip Kennedy Johnson. What's kind of funny about this is that you know where Steve Orlando put his chips in. Philip Kennedy Johnson may be making the pacing a bit better because Philip Kennedy Johnson knows how to do that. So is Steve Orlando, I would argue. But this one, it was just okay. I'm not going to reread this one anytime soon, I don't think. And this does go by chapter, and I read this all in one sitting, so maybe next time I read this, I'll read it chapter by chapter. Still try and read it all in one day, but like read chapter 1 of this, then read Before Watchmen, if I'm reading Before Watchmen, then read chapter 2, and then go back to Ultimates, and read chapter 3. Because I think that would make the overall experience better, but I don't know, it's not that thick of a book either, but this one was just okay. 6 out of 10. Very forgettable, too. Like, I kind of, when I finished, I was like, yeah, there's a good reason for why I completely forgot about this book. Like completely. 100%. Like when I was looking up Steve Orlando comics to check out after whatever I bought from him last time, that I was like, oh, let's celebrate Steve Orlando, yada yada yada. I think I had come across this and I had put it in my notes app. Maybe I even forgot to put it in there because it was a long time. Like you would think I would have read it first. It wouldn't be my second time reading this series. It'd be reading Killer Man. It would be my third or even fourth. Midnight Radio. Pick of the week material. This was really damn good. It tells 3 stories in it. Again, I think it was like, what, 200 pages? And it ties everything together, not together, but it ties everything, like it concludes everything, no storylines left behind. The only one I didn't like was Joe's, but I think on a reread it'll make more sense to me. It's kind of, not that it was forgettable, but it was just kind of strange, and I just kind of lost the plot a little bit, but everything else was top notch. This was one of those books that was, I thought would be preachy. I thought one of the storylines in here really preachy, but it's not. Well worth, exceeded all my expectations going in, which were pretty low, but not like super low or anything like that. I just wanted to read something that was engaging and was pretty fast paced, and this was all of that. Definitely worth checking out. 9.5 out of 10. Highly recommend that book. The Mask also gets a pick of the week. I think what I should do is do the OGN's pick of the week and then the collect editions pick of the week. So I finally found out this collects Mayhem issues 1 through 4, but they're 12-page stories, so I just read them all in one sitting, which was not that hard of a feat. It was 48 pages, and that was not hard of a feat at all. It was actually not even Mayhem. It's the Mask issues 0 through 4. Because they were reprinted as Mask issue 0, and that was a 48-page book, so that's why I read it all in one thing. It's like, oh, it's just reading that Mask issue 0 issue. That's, was an officially released issue of a comic, so I count that, because I probably would just pick up Mask issue 0. So it was just a reprint. So that's what I would do. I'd read Mask issue 0, and then obviously 1 through 4. But that's just the way I justify that, I guess you could say. But anyways, so I did read this 1 issue per. I finally found out a way to see where the issue left off on, because it was no covers. Not even in the back they show the covers. In the introduction, sort of, but that was it. But anyways, this was really damn good. John Arcudi knows his stuff. The only thing I didn't like about this book was I think his name was Kellaway, the Officer Kellaway storyline. I thought his whole mask is kind of engaging, but I was looking forward to the mask parts in those books. It was kind of like remind me as a kid when you would only you look forward in superhero movies. You look forward to the action scenes, and everything else was boring to you. But I was the kind of kid who liked everything in a superhero movie. If anything, I liked the more quieter moments more than the action-packed moments. Still like the action-packed moments, don't get me wrong, but didn't mind the more slower, especially with Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker, those moments, or Mary Jane and Peter Parker, those moments. I didn't even mind that as a kid. And here I was like, the kid in me that was completely exercised has been resurrected completely and has come back full force, twice as strong, because the mask parts were the most interesting parts in those Officer Kellaway issues. I wish they got more of Skilling Ipkiss and his wife. That was really captivating. But all in all, I would give this an 8 out of 10. Now, Harrow County would get pick of the week, but I have read all this before, so it's my second reading of the book. Do not count rereads as pick of the week. But this probably would get the pick of the week. Harrow County, really damn good. Cullen Bunn at his absolute best. If you don't like Cullen Bunn's writing because you haven't read the best of his stuff, best of him, of his work, definitely give this a shot. This is 100% well worth paying. I keep saying the same thing. Well worth paying. What is it? $29.99 for? $30? Yeah. $30 for. That's a good deal. You're getting each issue at actually less than $2 each. That's 16 issues. So that's already well worth the price of admission, but you also get a really damn good story. It gets better as it goes along. A little bit slow at first. I did notice that even with my second reread, I remembered oh yeah, the first few issues are very slow, but once it gets going, it never stops. And I might just add Omnibus Volume 2 and the little 4-issue miniseries to my to read in July pile. But not right away, because I do have just a lot they add. But definitely, I recommend 10 out of 10. Top 5 material, also. It's that good. Planet of the Apes. I've yet to read a bad Planet of the Apes comic, and this is an omnibus's worth of great material. Nothing in here, I was like, you could have taken that out. This should have been 10 issues instead of 12. No, like, each storyline was as long as it needed to be and not any longer or any shorter. So very tightly paced, and I love it for that. And sometimes it's really fast paced too. Like it knew when to have more like talking bits, and it knew when to have more dialogue, and knew when to have less dialogue. And never did I feel like it was too much dialogue. Sometimes I did, but that was because I remember it being super fast paced and being almost like devoid of dialogue. It had dialogue in it, of course, but I remember it being one of the more dialogue. Whatever the heck, like I remember being very light on dialogue, but it was like in retrospect, it was more heavy on dialogue than I thought I remember it being. But all around, still a 9 out of 10 for Planet of the Apes omnibus. Gabriel Hardman is such an underrated writer, and so is his wife, Karina Sora-Benchko. It's actually Karina Benchko. Yeah, everywhere I've seen, it's just Karina Benchko. I don't know where I saw Sora. Maybe on that the one shot she did, the what's it called? The OGN she did for Hidden Town. That's what it was. I think that one she was cited as Karina Sora-Benchko, and it wasn't even that Green Lantern book. I don't know. Abe Sapien, one of the less good Hellboy spin-offs. This was pretty boring. I was so happy to have finished this. Now, John Arcudi just does 2 issues in here, and even those issues were kind of underwhelming. Disappointing is the best word to use for Abe Sapien, and underwhelming. 5 out of 10. Nothing all that captivating, nothing all that memorable. It's very forgettable, and I don't think I'm pissing anyone off by saying that. If you're a Hellboy diehard fan, you've already read it, but yeah, check it out. But other than that, you can probably skip it. Nothing in here that it wasn't even like a one-shot storyline that I was like, that was really good, we need more of that. I mean, maybe there was, but I cannot remember off the top of my head. Maybe the second volume would be better. So I think they do have a second volume at my local library. Then finally, Fairy Quest, one of Paul Jenkins' lesser great books. Yeah, I'm at a loss for words for this book. It's just weird, and not the good kind of weird. And there's a sequel to the series I will not be checking out. Even if the library had it, I will not be checking it out. And this was 2 issues in 1 volume, and I did like this format. The artwork was pretty damn good, and I like the overall pitch for this book. Because the execution kind of sucks, and should not suck for a Paul Jenkins comic. Paul Jenkins is like a really good writer, in my opinion. Wolverine Origin, while it is made for the same audience as all the other Wolverine books, does feel like it's still more mature in general. And Wolverine in general is one of the more mature X-Men spin-offs. But this one felt like extremely mature. Like it was like almost like Marvel's example, or like a Marvel Max book. I think it really should have been a Marvel Max book. I think it would have benefited from being that. But just like, and I'm not saying like, what I'm trying to say is that, it's not like, like every other Wolverine book is not mature enough. But no, it's just kind of like, I feel like some Wolverine books may have strayed away from going that far with some of the material in there. And not just in like, this Wolverine book, and then I wouldn't even say that. It was just kind of like it felt like it did want to go there with some portions of the comic, and maybe like the editorial would have said, it's too early for that, we're in, the year 2000, 2002, we don't want to go that far just yet, but even then, Marvel Max, like, once Marvel was off the Comics Code Authority, they went full throttle, so I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I'm gonna end the video. Actually, no, I'm gonna get 30 minutes. Basically what I was trying to say, is that Wolverine Origin, while Wolverine books had been that mature, it felt like this one could have been less so, but decided not to be. I guess is what I was trying to say. And Paul Jenkins knew what he wanted to write, and I don't know, but it just felt like he knew the audience he was writing for and didn't talk down to them at all. Even though I don't think it was in parental advisory. No, it was parental advisory, but it was good. Is my point. All right, that is it. Next video will be probably next week. I'm deciding when the books come in. The books I ordered when they come in. I don't know if I'm just gonna do it like me on Friday. Like all the books that come in so far. But then it just depends on when those books come in. But I will see you guys when I see you.